Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session for Turnitin Educator Network. Today, we have a very interesting topic, considering that artificial intelligence is kind of the talk of the hour. Our topic for the day is AI-powered learning versus AI-powered cheating. Now, since ChatGPT has been made openly accessible since November 2022, the impact of artificial intelligence in education has created an uproar in academia across the globe. Is AI, or maybe more specifically, if I put it, the generative large language models, going to help us in our academic pursuits, or is it going to cause disruption? So to discuss this, we have a very eminent educator with us today, Dr. Kumendra Raheja. Dr. Kumendra has a total experience of 23 years with a mix of academic, sales, and training. He currently heads a premier PGDM institute in Pune. He's formally educated in marketing and human resource management and has worked across various Indian and international organizations, including academics like Metal Toys, Indira Group of Institutes, Bharti Cellular, NIS Sparta, Zazan University in Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth. Dr. Kumendra has experience of leading diverse corporate and academic teams and setting up institutional processes to enable individuals and institutions to deliver quality consistently. Besides being an academician, he is also an established corporate trainer with expertise in behavioral and soft skills training at supervisory and managerial level, leading high performance teams and leadership development interventions, sales management, and performance coaching, to name a few. He has, to his credit, setting up of the entrepreneurship curriculum and end-to-end entrepreneurship development processes at a leading international baccalaureate school. Additionally, he was enrolled with National Entrepreneurship Network, NEN, for their campus induction program as a lead educator, under which he had delivered programs at leading B schools in Pune. He has presented his research work in several national and international conferences and has publications in national and international journals. He enjoys reading and loves to engage in cooking and gardening as a stress buster. He loves long drives and leaves no opportunity to take one with family and friends. That's a really, really diverse profile. And thank you, Dr. Kumendra, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I think it is always great to be part of the network, and I extend warm thanks to Turnitin network to give me this opportunity to present my thoughts on one of the most burning topics, that is AI. So I'm all good to start, and here we are. So you can shoot the questions that you have up your thought.
Wonderful. So as I started with, our topic for the day is AI-powered learning versus AI-powered cheating. So my first question on that would be to kind of gain some understanding for our viewers here. What is AI-powered learning, and how does it really differ from the traditional educational methods?
Well, I think, yeah, that should have been the first question, and it is. In fact, very important for us to understand what is the fundamental difference between the AI-powered learning and traditional methods of learning. In fact, if you look at the question itself, AI-powered, that means a learning that is powered by AI, artificial intelligence or generative AI. The fundamental difference is the integration of technology into educational methods. Now, what do you mean by integration of technology? I think technology has been around. We all possibly moved from learning on slates to learning on computers over a period of time. We started working on computers and so on and so forth. So does that what technological integration means? I think we're going a step ahead from here. What we are saying is that integration of technology to an extent where we make the learning experience very, very personalized. So when I say learning experience very, very personalized, is here we can take the help of various AI techniques, which is deep machine learning or large database tools in terms of understanding the learning behavior of each student or each learner. Now, which is where the AI-based learning becomes more student-centric, right, and becomes more personalized as compared to the traditional form of learning, right? Now, when I say this, there are a couple of things that we can take an example here. Now, very recently, there is an app called Duolingo that has been launched. Duolingo, I'm sure everybody's heard of, is a multiple language learning platform. Now, it provides listening, reading, and speaking exercise for over 40 global languages. Imagine the kind of scope and spectrum that this app handles. Now, by applying AI, Lessons are paced. Now, understand there is one app and there are multiple learners. Now, unlike in a traditional setup where the students would be sitting in a classroom, irrespective of somebody who may be a fast learner, somebody who may be a slow learner, a teacher provides lessons in the similar pace, in the similar fashion, in the similar explanation, which is definitely varies when you actually go to learn language from Duolingo. Now, Duolingo makes a different plan for Purna, makes a different plan for Kumain, and in this, maybe understand that Purna is far more competent to handle higher level, examples in language as compared to Kumendra. So here, it does what? It very clearly personalizes a plan for Purna, it very clearly personalizes a plan for Kumendra. So I think that is one fundamental difference. Beside this, of course, there is an element of instant feedback. A student is in a position to understand instantly as to where they are doing good and where they need support. I think this will do a world of good to a student. Now, in a traditional setup, you see, essentially the students only gets to know once they've kind of given their exam, and then they get to understand how they fared in the exam, which section did they do good, which section they did not do good. And possibly that is also lost in comparisons. I got this many marks and you got these many marks. Irrespective whether two students are comparable, the marks become the yardsticks to, make an assumption about the capabilities of a particular student, which is definitely not the case here. It is moving away from being traditional. Here, a student would be able to understand what they are good at and where they need support, and then emphasize on what they need to, work harder on in order to improve. And hopefully, over a period of time, I think the learning becomes very stable, and they're able to excel in what they do good, and yet be able to, live up to being above average in the areas where they need support and help. Here, the role of a teacher also becomes very, very comprehensive, and I think this is where AI is adding value to overall, educational ecosystem here.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. You touched upon quite a few very important applications when it comes to education. In fact, there are a lot of assessment platforms which are using AI exactly, to facilitate the communication, the feedback mechanism between a teacher and a student, which is so useful when it comes to the very process of learning.
In fact, Purna, one very recent example, if you allow me to quote that, one very recent example, my younger daughter. Now there are various test prep, organizations spread across the country, and one of the prominent test prep companies called, I will, for the sake of not wanting to disclose the name here, one of the prominent test prep companies. I think what used to happen earlier is you go yourself, register yourself, go and sit in the classroom. There is a teacher who comes and teaches a particular subject and moves on, right? Then you're given certain practice papers, you go back home and you practice papers and you come back. Now it is best left to the student to identify where they lack and come back and talk to the teacher, and see whether the teacher is in a position to help or no. Now there is a very fundamental change that has happened in the way in which they have, they have been administering the coaching to the students. Now they've created a parallel website where they've hosted a whole lot of content there. Now they've given the student the access. So the traditional model is on, whether the student is sitting in the classroom, teacher is coming and teaching, but there is an assisted, learning and coaching that is happening. A student is expected to take tests, which are hosted on the website. Student has got a, very, their own account there, very personal own account there. They go and appear through the test. And towards the end of the test, it very clearly brings about the areas where the student needs help. And this particular snapshot, the faculty also have a visibility to that. So next time when I am going and sitting with the teacher saying that I have a problem, all he has to do is go to that website and find out, hey, hi Kumendra, I can understand that you are not doing very well with the time and distance, or you may be not doing very well with the velocity. Oh, but then you're doing great with this. Why don't you do these problems? So I think that has only added flavor, one, and secondly, motivated a student to understand, yes, it's learning is not difficult. All I need to do is know where I need to do it and do it with passion. I think that's the whole game changer, I can say, AI is all about.
Absolutely. And I think, again, a very key point you touched upon is student motivation. So when we usually talk about academic integrity, one of the reasons that comes up is a student really lacks motivation to learn. And that's why, resorting to all kinds of misconduct, misuse, so on and so forth. But if in the first place, we can get that motivation to learn, or, achieve that learning objective comes into the student, I think we'll be able to deal with a lot of issues that come with the, issues around academic misconduct and, where there's a violation of academic integrity.
It definitely will contribute to that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because while there is a way where it is being disrupted, I think that's the concern that people are coming around. But I think it a lot way depends, and like you rightly mentioned, on how we are incorporating the technology to actually aid in that process as well.
Exactly.
So that actually brings me to the next question. So what are the potential benefits and drawbacks of incorporating AI into education? And how does it change the role of the teacher or the educator when it comes to incorporating those changes?
All right. Now, there is absolutely, we said benefit. I think in the first question itself, we have kind of touched upon multiple benefits. One of the biggest benefit, and the benefit that I will vouch for, is essentially the it is very learning centric, or the learner centric for that matter. When I say learning centric, we have said enough about it, that the learner would be in a position to understand where they are doing good, where they need support. And I think that is where, once you're able to kind of once that aspect is out of the way, possibility is that the learning happens faster, learning happens in much more engaged fashion. That is definitely one of the major benefit of having AI. Well, of course, there are other benefits that are very much visible. One is that uh, the AI can adjust content. We said AI can adjust content. Here, what we mean by, when I touched upon making lessons participant centric, this is where I was hinting at. That is, AI would be in a position to expose every learner to the content as per the pace of learning of that particular individual. So I think this is definitely not possible in the current setup. And there is one teacher and 30 students, 40 students, 60 students in the classroom. There is one size fits all approach that moves on. But here, what we are saying is that every size has a different take altogether. So that is another very important benefit that we can derive out of it. The other benefit that is very important here is that today, look at where is AI getting the content from. Now, AI is actually getting the content from the treasure trove of content that is posted online, for that matter. What it is generally doing is it's scouring the content and bringing the most relevant content to the learner. Now, when I'm actually asking for A, and AI would be in a position to understand, to be able to learn this A, if this reader or this learner is exposed to this B and C also, I'm sure learning will become much more complete in that sense, right? And which definitely is not the case in the traditional setup. So here, what is happening is, when learner is asking for A, the AI is suggesting, why don't you go through B also? Why don't you go through C also? This will help you possibly exemplify your learning of A. So I think bringing about the support of various other learning content, which otherwise is not part of overall, what we say, organized content, schedule. I think that definitely brings about additional learning, additional understanding. So the sense that you were talking about, the cognitive development of a student, is definitely going to happen with the help of AI tools. Well, yes, the other things which definitely come with the package is that the routine tasks can be relegated to, or can be delegated to AI, where the teacher can essentially focus more on student than focusing on marking the assignments and so on and so forth. All that can be left to AI. The routine tasks can be taken care of by AI. So overall, if I were to actually put it, AI is definitely going to be a huge assistance to a teacher in terms of making class more productive and making the learning ecosystem very effective and very efficient. So that is 3-4 benefits that I could speak about. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, the way the role of a teacher or educator changes, it becomes more of a facilitator role, more aiding in the learning process. And obviously, as you mentioned, that a lot of administrative tasks, repetitive tasks can be handed over to technology. That obviously frees up time for the educator, especially in countries like ours, where there is a huge population.
Absolutely.
We rarely have classes where there are 20 students and one teacher. So there are 60, even sometimes more. So it's impossible for a teacher otherwise to spend that time, unless some of those repetitive tasks can be taken over by someone, and who is better than that technology taking that over. So certainly, yes.
One more thing that came to my mind is that today, when we talk about 1:60, you're always constrained about those 60 students in the classroom, and you're already constrained about the syllabus that you need to cover. and more, what happens is that you tend to put more focus on the syllabus or the content that you think is more important than the content that is not really important or comparatively not so important, which in the way might get brushed aside and might not get focused upon. But I think dividing the content between the teacher and the AI, imagine if the content of say about 30 hours worth of content is put on on the automated mode and told the student that you can go through this, we can discuss in the classroom, and the student goes through certain exercises, teacher gets an immediate access to how the student is faring. So I think that was definitely a role, complementary role that AI plays there along with the teacher, rightly said by you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we do hear about absolutely like the reversal, where majority of the probably going through the content is now happening at home. And whereas more of assessment, and when I say assessment, it's not the typical assessment, it's like different and in more innovative ways of assessment can be conducted by the teacher at class to really understand how much the student has been able to internalize and aid in that process. So that definitely also changes the paradigm to an extent.
Completely agree with you. Completely. But nicely put there. Yes, you spend time more qualitatively with the student, as we can say that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now coming to, of course, the next part of our discussion, which is AI-powered cheating. So what are the different ways of AI-powered cheating that we need to be aware of?
Well, I think we started off with with a negative connotation attached with AI when we said cheating as a word. And I think fundamentally in our mind, we bear the traditional modes where, I think cheating has been a part of everyone's life, right from the time when the civilization started to today. So I would like to kind of, differentiate between AI and the AI powered. So in a way, if we say AI powered cheating is what you said, but I would like to start with AI powered support that is available to someone who's up for learning for that matter. I think the fundamental difference again here is that of an intent, right? Now intent, when I know that I am I'm looking for the content which otherwise I may not either have time or may lack resources in terms of finding that content and go over with that, so I need support. But my intent is very clear. My intent is that I'm not wanting to reproduce somebody's work without giving them due credit. I'm not wanting to copy somebody's work and include in my body of writing. Intent is very clear that I'm positive, I want to make a difference, and I want to learn, right? The AI becomes a source of negative connotation, that is the word cheating, when my intent goes bad. So as an academician, if my intent goes bad, as a learner, if my intent goes bad, where I decide to hand over my learning responsibility to AI, I think a whole lot of things are possible there. A whole lot of things will happen there. So I'm firm believer of the fact that everyone has a positive intent till such time they are forced to think negatively. So there are various tools. I can definitely say there are very, some tools like content generation tools where the text is generated using sophisticated language models and from various sources, which makes it difficult to detect. And I'm sure Turnitin itself is in that phase in terms of finding out where this content and try and see if we can detect that content. So yes, there is content generation tools that are available. Yeah, there are paraphrasing tools like Quilt, which is around us. Again, if used positively, has tremendous, tremendous value in it. Language translation tools, and I was reading this somewhere, and I was really amazed. See, so today when we say the content that I have to refer to with respect to writing a piece of article, I'm accessing the articles in the language that I know the best, right? So I'm not looking at the articles written in other languages. And in all probability, if there is nothing supporting me, I would continue to resort to the language that I'm familiar with. But with the help of AI, and it's so powerful, with the help of AI, I'm in a position to scour the content which may be written. This content under the theme that I'm wanting to develop my piece on is in different languages, right? And it helps me to not only get that content, but also translate my content in that language if I were to kind of take help of AI tools in that fashion. So it is both ways, very powerful that I have access to other languages and the content written in the other language. So my learning becomes more holistic, my scope and research becomes more holistic. So these are some of the tools which are essentially available at the behest of AI in terms of making writing or learning more powerful. Now comes the cheating part of it, the fundamental question that you started off with. yes, there are there are various ways. Like I said, the intent goes bad, everything can go bad, right? Intent going bad, you can always use and that's actually happening around us. In our own setup, when we give assignment to the student, unless we have the right system in place where we are able to detect that the student content is essentially copied as the content where the student did not really even sit down to organize it. It was an organized piece given to him. All he did is copy that and paste it and hand it over to us. In that sense, the intent is bad. And yes, this is where AI would possibly, harm a lot if not checked properly. Now, if I could, if I could go to the cheating part of it, it has tremendous impacts. I think we've been talking about the impacts about cheating since ages, but today it becomes more visible. It becomes more, it transforms into reality right now. One of the biggest loss that the humankind possibly faces if this AI part goes unchecked is the uh, bankruptcy on three, counts. One is the cognitive bankruptcy. When I say cognitive bankruptcy, what do I mean? Now, ability to think. Today, AI is what AI is because I, as a human, banged on my native intelligence, thought about it, and brought innovations and brought a whole lot of inventions around me to bring up something like AI. This did not happen because I handed over my learning to somebody else. This happened because I learned myself. I went through the motions, and because I went through the motions, I was able to move from one level to the other, and so on and so forth. Now, what happens because of AI? Now, the moment the intent goes bad, I'm handing over my responsibility to learn to AI. And while I'm doing that, maybe I may be able to move from one test to the other, but I'm not learning. So that is the cognitive, bankruptcy. You will stop learning and you will stop, innovating. And that's where the society is going to be dead over a period of time. Moral and ethical, ethical bankruptcy. These are two diseases which have been around society for a very long time. Fortunately, so the academic fraternity has been untouched with this. But I think with the advent of newer tools every day, with the advent of techniques like AI, I'm not thinking twice. My intent is gone bad. I'm not thinking twice. All I need is the short-term achievement of my goal. I don't care what means. So getting the work done by hook or by crook is the thought process that will set in even in the academic community, which is where the flag bearers of a society are academicians. And if the sense of getting to achieve by hook or crook sets into this academic community, believe me, we are seeing not the day not being very far where we're looking at a moral and ethical bankruptcy in the minds. The others could be, yes, education quality would go down, definitely, which is coupled with the cognitive bankruptcy. If you don't learn, you don't produce good. If you don't produce good, quality is one of the biggest prey. Besides that, yes, in the more contemporary sense, the misrepresentation of the learner's ability. Now, what do I mean by this? Is that I may not know what I'm doing, but all I had to do is know exactly what to ask and get the piece and submit it. And basis that piece, there is a bias that might creep in, wherein I'm looking at this piece and assuming that you're a great resource, you're a great academician, right? Which is where maybe as compared to someone who's not used AI and has submitted the original work. So that kind of a misrepresentation of ability would set in. But having said that, denominator, it's going to be a downfall. If I know I'm exaggerating, and I'm sure a lot of things are going to come between the AI generation today and the implementation of the same. If it goes unchecked, there are far-reaching effects. I must say that. But I think today, in whatever form it is, if it is checked properly, it is used properly, we are in for great developments ahead of us.
Absolutely. Those are very wonderful points covered. I think one more point we can talk about is probably how it is impacting the industry of, if I may say, contract cheating. Just to kind of simplify, contract cheating is like ghostwriting, where someone else writes a paper on your behalf. But then again, there are institutions, or I would say organizations, or you say individuals posing as organizations more precisely, who do that in lieu of money. Now, probably so far in India, we've not seen that impact as much because it is very expensive. because they were actually individuals writing. Now, imagine these individuals using AI, or maybe more number of individuals coming into this so-called business of contract cheating and writing using AI. So obviously they can provide the same service at a lot cheaper cost. So do you see that as an issue? I mean, coming up for our students as well?
I think you rightly said when you said, although this is not presently there in our context, it's yet to see any kind of development here and there. It has already started for sure. In fact, some form of contract writing is already there in place. And I think today, when institutions are making research compulsory, institutions are making publication compulsory, institutions are making publications quality journal compulsory, I think this is already set in. It may be very minuscule at this point in time, but yes, of course, it's purely the game of demand and supply. Demand may not be so high right now, hence the supply is constricted. But I think maybe 10 years down the line, demand is going to increase. With the focus on education, with the focus on people wanting to get into education and making their career out of it, I think this is only going to rise from here. So if you see from that standpoint, I cannot rule out. You rightly said, yes, AI will come, handy, very, very handy to someone who was earlier possibly doing original work on behalf of somebody else. There was original work happening somewhere for that matter. If not I was doing it, I got someone else to do it. But originality was there. But I think that originality definitely is going to get hampered. To what extent, believe me, today I find myself incompetent to comment on that. What I can say definitely here is yes, it is going to happen. Yes, and if the motive is profit, see, understand when we say the word profit, it's not a bad word. But the moment the motive becomes profit, I think everybody would want to try and leverage all resources possible to ensure that they're able to increase their profitability. And you rightly said, name of game in India is about pricing. So tomorrow, if the prices come down so much that everybody is able to afford it, all we are seeing is, yes, this is going to definitely spread. So to answer your question, is it going to spread? Yes. To answer your question, saying that, do we face that challenge? Yes, we do face that challenge. I don't know if I'm just preempting like AI. Your next question would be how to prevent it. If at all that's what you want to ask. Like I said, very, very, very early, too early for making a comment on this end, right? But I think it lies in the way in which it's not only at the institutions. It's not at the time when you actually at an institution wanting to do something. I think it is essentially to do with how you were brought up. I mean, I think that's where the culture sets in, right? So I'm just taking the sense of being aware, sense of making people aware, a little too much in the past, where you were born and how your parents brought you up and how they gave the sense of right and wrong. I think with the AI entering into lives the way it is, I think one more piece being added to parenting, saying that, right from the child time the kid is born, you need to give them a sense that, doing this is right, doing that is wrong, and, possibly inbuild that sense so heavily that they are, personally able to decide, what to get into, what to stay away from. So that sense of right and wrong has to be, given and reinforced at every step, right? In the school, elementary school, to a secondary school, to a college, to a post-college, to a, to an employment. That sense of right and wrong, sense of the benefit and the losses, sense of pluses and minuses needs to be continued to be hammered in the human brain to be able to make sense of what they should take, what they should not. But yet, crimes are still there, would continue to happen. We can only try and minimize them. As simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you rightly said that while personal integrity starts at home, I think the awareness or generation of awareness around academic integrity and what is original writing. Your original writing is not mine. If you are writing on my behalf, that is not my original writing. So I cannot present that as my writing. And that's a very fundamental thing to understand. It definitely has to be inculcated. Technology is, of course, that. Like you mentioned, yes, Turnitin has an AI detector. Turnitin has authorship investigate that can help detect contract cheating. But these are all tools to help educators have that conversation with the students. It is very important for educators to have that focus and awareness so that they can understand the interpretation from these tools, because we never say, okay, this is cheating. Even a similarity percentage is not plagiarism percentage. The AI detector is just an indicator that percentage of AI might be used. Now, whether it was used validly or not, whether there is a concern or not, is definitely not something that technology can decide. It's the role of the educator. And that's why that awareness is extremely important. And that brings me to my probably the last question that we'll discuss here is that what role do the academic integrity policies play in combating the AI-powered cheating or any kind of misuse? And how might they need to evolve? I mean, what we have seen and what you've rightly said in one of the earlier discussions is that most of the plagiarism or any kind of academic misconduct, be it with the use of AI or other means, is inadvertent. It happens because people are not aware that this amounts to a non-acceptance. This amounts to something that I cannot do. Or if I use using some idea or some content, this is how I need to present that. So how do these academic integrity policies, they need to evolve to combat this new element that has been added here?
I must thank you, Purna, because your question had the answer in it when you spoke about the awareness part of it. I think earlier we were content as an institution. We were content with having to written a policy, shared that policy with someone, and assuming that person will read the policy, because I knew that everything that is written over there is a limit to it. And I think if somebody engages into it, we would be in a position to hopefully catch that person uh, and the process thereafter. But I think the word that you said is the word is conscious awareness. Now, what do we mean by conscious awareness? So I think the institutions will have to move away from simply sharing the policy to the new domain where you actually let policy explicitly address the use of AI technology for cheating and plagiarism, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that today, once that happens, now it is required for the institution to have a dialogue, to have a clear dialogue. When I say dialogue, that dialogue could be a technology assisted dialogue. That dialogue could be one-on-many kind of dialogue. The dialogue could be one-on-one kind of dialogue, but that dialogue is a must right now. Now, what that dialogue is supposed to do, now the institutions can incorporate education modules that inform students. When I say students, I'm talking about the learners, about the risks, the consequences, and ethical implications of using AI, right? So it's there in the content, but getting them to understand, I think exemplifying that and getting them to see what are the consequences of such practices if they were to resort to, that is really very important. That is one part of it. Now, that is about making sure that the learner understand what is it that they lose if they were to resort to it. That is one part of it. Other part of it where learner is even at loss to or confused or at loss to understand what actually amounts to cheating in the first place, right? I think that is where the learning has to start. What actually amounts to cheating? So I think we need to get into our own content, make it a little more, little more comprehensive, make it a little more simplistic to understand, so that everybody understand what actually amounts to cheating. Only once I understand that this is what amounts to cheating, then comes the ethical sense, whether I want to get into it or whether I want to stay away from that. So next level is about bringing them the ethical awareness. But I think bare minimum that an institution has to do, or anybody in this in this field has to do, is to ensure that they're able to define what amounts to cheating, put the policies in place to ensure that everybody understands what are the consequences if they were to go that side. Of course, one is the moral and ethical, which is best left to the individual, but there are other operational aspects that the individual might end up losing if they were to kind of get into contract cheating or AI based cheating. Baki, I'm sure, like you said, technology can only do to an extent of bringing up multiple tools to make sure that you're able to detect if there is any cheating. And I'm sure this will only improve over a period of time. Today, Turnitin is able to have an AI indicator, but I'm sure with the use of AI, Turnitin itself, a couple of years down the line, would say that we would exactly tell you where the content is coming from. And that day is not far. So, technology-wise, I'm sure we are very smart, and humans will definitely come up with another technology to take care of the loopholes of the earlier technology. But what is fundamentally important is to create awareness, both operationally as well as ethically, so that I understand as an individual, that by resorting to contract cheating, am I contributing to the nation's growth, or am I contributing to the depletion of national integrity? That's exactly what I feel at this point. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that really sums it up. I think what we understood is that technology, for that matter, any technology really depends on whether it acts as an enhancer or a disruptor. Really depends on how you adopt the technology, be it artificial intelligence, be it any other form of technology. And as you rightly mentioned, it's only going to evolve. Today, we have these generative large language models, which anyways is evolving at a very fast pace. And tomorrow there'll be something else. So I think at one end, we need to create that awareness, and awareness has to come in at the school level, at a very childhood level, on what content I can use, what content I cannot use, and if I have to use it, how is it that I have to use it, what is acceptable and what is not. And that reinforcement has to happen over my period of learning. It's not a one-time intervention. It's something that grows along with an individual. And there, I think institutions, schools, colleges, universities, along with, of course, the society plays a big role. Of course, technology is there to aid, or technology is there to act as disruptor. Up to you, how you use it. I think educators around the globe are now adopting this technology. There are various discussions we have hosted, there are being hosted around the globe around how it can be leveraged to aid the process of education. So that's always ongoing. But I think the points that you discussed were really revealing. Thank you so much for your time today. And have a great rest of the day. I will look forward to talking to you again very soon. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you and have a nice day.